So, it's been a bit under the radar, but it looks like we're getting some rumblings from Amazon Prime.
You missed the opportunity to continue the metaphor and say readings. Because you were talking about radar. When you said the R, I was hearing, I was like readings. And then you said rumblings, and I was like, he didn't do it. Anyways.
Missed opportunity.
Anyways, besides the point.
Maybe I should just talk like an old wizard.
The whole segment.
Middle-earth.
And I'll just go, Gandalf! Or whatever the heck.
Okay, so anyway.
Lord of the Rings.
If you're not paying much attention, you may have missed that Amazon Prime is making an original Lord of the Rings show / series. Hopefully that they won't cancel after a few seasons.
I was about to say, it's not Netflix because they probably couldn't afford it.
But yeah. Well, this is actually the most that Amazon has spent on any property.
Yeah,
like
I would hope
they
so.
have spent millions on this.
Is it already in...
Production.
Wow. Okay.
Oh yeah, it's in production.
Do we have a cast?
I don't think we know who, but it is. Yeah, it was being filmed as of a few months ago. So via a couple of social media accounts, we've been seeing Amazon Prime kind of tease a little bit of this Middle-earth project, and what they're doing is they're quoting the poem that is known from Lord of the Rings. Now, first they tweeted out a wide map of Middle-earth, and they tweeted out with the phrase, 3 rings for the elven kings under the sky. And then on Instagram, they quoted the next part of the poem saying, 7 for the dwarf lords in their halls of stone.
Wow. Yes.
And next, so yeah, they've started doing this a couple of they still have a ways to go though to get through the entire poem. So that still leaves it looks like 6 more lines left of the poem to quote. So here's what we know so far. We do know that it is going to be a prequel. A lot of people who are following this closely are saying that this could detail the events leading up to the War of the Ring, that event that we see at the beginning of the movie Fellowship of the Ring with, what's his name? Elrond.
Yeah.
Elrond leading his elf armies into...
That's the Red Skull guy, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Same actor.
Yeah.
And Agent Smith.
And Agents, yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Ampersand. So Ampersand. Yeah, so talk to Jake, another podcast host on here.
Yeah.
So that would be interesting to see, because we would have a young Aragorn, young Arwen. We'd have, I assume, hobbits. At that point, yeah, we would have hobbits. Of course, we wouldn't have Bilbo or Frodo. They haven't been born yet. Yeah. Only a few people really would be alive during this time. You'd, of course, would have Legolas. You'd have Gimli. If they do have them in there, though, I would imagine they would recast.
Yeah, and I feel like Lord of the Rings is a rich enough lore, and with the span that it has, where it's understandable, to recast people, and it's like I don't know. I feel like you could have it's not like sacred. It's not like.
I don't know if I said this before, but I do hope that they keep that. I don't want them to contradict anything in Tolkien's written works.
Oh no, yeah.
I would like for that. I mean, if we learned anything from Star Wars, like maybe you should stick to the what's already been written down, and not deviate from that too much. Because in case you weren't aware, there were a whole bunch of novels that were written after Episode 6 for Star Wars, and they were pretty good.
Yes, from what I've heard. I'm not even like a huge, like Lord of the Rings nut, but I think this is cool for 2 reasons. Number one being, you hear prequels, like you hear when people do prequels, and it's just like, oh, a prequel, really? Like, that's so cheap. But I feel like it works for Lord of the Rings because they're not just making up crap. They're like, from what I know, there's like established lore that's happened in the past.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
There's so much there that Tolkien passed away before he could write it all down.
So like, obviously there's details to flesh out, which is what the show's going to be. But so you have a structure. Like I feel like that's really good for it, and that's a good thing to pull from. And then number 2, it's a TV show and not a movie. so they can get back to those good old practical effects. At least that's what I'm hoping. Because, you know, television shows don't do those big movie budgets with all that CGI. Like, that was one of the things that drove me, aside from the movies being painfully boring, that was one of the things that drove me crazy about the Hobbit movies, was just all this CG, like, armies of orcs. Like, it just looked so, not necessarily bad, but obvious. And, like, even with some of the orcs, like, up close, they would animate them. And it's just like, can we get back to the practical effects? And I feel like with a TV show, right? Like, isn't that what's going to happen?
Well, I mean, a lot of, like, Walking Dead's one of them. Walking Dead is kind of it's mostly practical effects, and then they do use CG when it's more practical to do.
But isn't that just television shows in general? I mean, they don't use a whole lot of CG because it usually looks bad.
Well, here's the deal. It seems like it's going to be on the same level as, say, Game of Thrones, which is a show that I do not watch for obvious reasons, but the level of production and CG used there, I've been told by people that do watch it, no, it's like you're watching a Hollywood blockbuster film. It's good CG. It's not bad when they do use it.
Still, I mean, I just hope they don't rely on it too much. I feel like they...
No, I mean, there's a ton of CG in the original Lord of the Rings trilogy.
But not when it comes to the orcs and stuff.
Right. Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, when they had to, they used it, I feel like.
When they were close up, they were practical, and then they would have, like, CG
and they didn't do
ones
that
in the
at
background.
all in The Hobbit.
Right.
It was
garbage. And the reason for that was you did have the recession. You had a recession at the time that it was being filmed.
Yeah.
At that point, it was actually more see that's the thing that happened between the two trilogies being filmed. In the first trilogy being filmed, practical effects were still cost-wise the better way to go.
I mean, these days it's always going to be.
Now it's changed.
It's always going to be that
CG
case.
is actually the cheaper way to go.
And that's why I want it to be practical, because it just looks like you care more and you put more time and effort into it.
Right.
And it just looks better in the end. I mean, because the human eye can recognize stuff that's not real.
There is.
Sorry, Thanos.
There is stuff to be lost. Although I still love how, I can't think of his name, but the white orc looks. I still think he looks.
Yeah, he looked
good.
good. He looked good.
They you could tell they put a lot of time and effort.
Kind of like Thanos, and then his like general dudes or whatever the heck. They look kind of bad.
Yeah. Thanos looked fantastic.
Kind of like
generals
that.
were kind of like.
Most of them, yeah. I thought the big dude looked okay.
Well, you never really saw him up close, so.
Also, the wizard dude looked pretty good, right?
Yes, because he got more screen time.
Yeah.
But the female,
who didn't even need to be animated. I've said this before. She's humanoid.
True. Yeah.
But whatever. Yeah.
So yeah, you can hopefully we'll get some more details, like maybe a release date to look forward to.
Yeah, and let us know in the comments if you're excited for this. If you're like a big Lord of the Rings fan who knows a lot about the lore, I can only imagine how exciting that would be. Like if you know what's coming, you're like, ooh, I can't wait to see this and that. That'd be fun.
Or maybe you don't like the idea. Maybe you think they're gonna botch it up.
That's also a possibility. Let us know.
It is a possibility.